She's tired of hearing me talk.
All right, it's setting up here. All right, so we're live here. Welcome to the Brain Drive weekly development call. This is where we cover all of the progress from the previous week and set up our action items for the coming week. Our mission here at Brain Drive is to make it easy to build, control, and benefit from your own AI system. I'm Dave Waring, and I handle the operations side here at Brain Drive.
And I'm David Jones, and I handle the tech side of the house here.
Awesome. And we always like to start off with the celebrations and challenges from last week. So you want to kick us off, Dave?
It's probably the same sentence in both, but I'll elaborate a little bit more. How about we finished documentation from a plugin set aspect of being able to take uh, Brain Drive is built on a decoupled system, and so that you have to have service bridges to handle the communication between the plugin and the core. And I was the only person to know all of this knowledge, and that's not a successful path for any by any means. So this last week was more like a brain dump. Everything you need to know about each plugin or each service bridge has been encapsulated into a single plugin. If you want to know about events, you want to know about the API, the theme, settings, it doesn't matter. There's a plugin. It is solely focused on that service bridge, shows you how to instantiate it, shows you how to get it going and how to test that it's working, and then documentation to back it up so you can follow along with words. This is what it's doing, and here's the code, and it matches the plugin so that if you're learning from any nature of whether you're a developer already or a new developer and you're learning Brain Drive, you can match the words in the tutorial with the code that's right there, and then it matches the code in the plugin. So to get that completed for all 6 plugins plus the template in 1 week, hey, and I didn't, try to do anything drastic because that much documentation is pretty draining for a developer. We hate doing
Yep.
it.
Yep. And that's the challenge, right?
Yep, that's the challenge because the last it's like I think every developer does it. It's like you code all this and then it's like, okay, somebody else can figure out how this works. I coded it. But in this case, that's not with just you and I. You got business, I got the tech side. So when I get done doing all this stuff, then it was time. Now let's put it in documentation because as I learned, if Dave can explain it to another developer how it works, then I've succeeded because I have
Yeah.
not only developed this, but then I've been able to explain it to him and then he shows me, okay, we're on the right path now. Let's go.
Yep. And I do feel like I can explain it now, which is a big celebration. And also, in addition to, I think both of us feeling pretty good about where our sort of V1 documentation is. We also had a couple of developers
Yep.
actually complete plugins on Brain Drive even before having this documentation. So,
Yeah.
this should make that process even easier for developers. So, I think in terms of challenges from last week for myself, we sort of reached that milestone of getting developers up and running on the
Mm,
platform, and I was feeling a little lost in terms of not really. I mean, we know kind of where we're headed,
yeah.
obviously with our mission and our vision and our roadmap, but just making sure that we stay like really dialed in on the next steps and how we're allocating resources
Yeah.
because we have more resources now, but also we're still a very small team, and we want to
Yeah.
make sure that we're making the best use of
Yeah.
those resources and not only not wasting any time, but also making sure that we're working on the highest priority things. So I was able to spend some time thinking about that over the weekend, and I feel a lot better about that now.
Yeah, because that would be
Um,
easily, as we were talking at the end of the week, to get caught up. Okay, let's go into this direction. Let's go into this direction. But at the end of the day, I mean, theory, there's just other people. But even us, our time would get sucked up by doing these other directions. And we have a roadmap. We want to get to Katie because
yep.
that is that successful destination for a milestone right there. If somebody who's not techie can get into this, get moving, and it's like I'm rather excited, especially like from a local model standpoint. Some more models for doing user interfaces popped up, both a 4B and a 32B size, and the results of them were rather impressive. So it's like we're seeing some models come up that Brain Drive could use to create plugins.
Right.
And that
The new Quen coder and all of that, right? In terms of being
no,
able to give that.
these were actually UI specific
Okay.
models that were fine tuned. It was a 4 and a 32-bit B, so it's probably a Quinn model still, um, and probably built on the coding model, but they were fine tuned for user interfaces in React.
Oh, cool.
So exactly. So that's what we were kind of hinting at with Matt last week, but this is already showing that this will be the right direction for Brain Drive to go, so that a Katie or you or even a developer can go get a head start going, I want to use your interface in Brain Drive. I want it to do XYZ. And then you don't just get a plugin or a plugin template now, you actually get something that you can see close to what you were asking for.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. And
Yep.
all the documentation that you did will really help with
Yep.
that as well. All right, great. So let me just pull up the roadmap here. Du- 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 du. Okay, I'll just share my screen briefly. We are working towards our V1 of Brain Drive, which is for our Katie Carter persona. And we define Katie Carter as a content creator, someone that wants to use Brain Drive or their own AI system to create and market their content. And right now, we're really focused on to get to that Katie Carter persona, our Adam Carter persona, and Adam is a technical person, is a developer, and we're trying to get Brain Drive to the point where that Adam Carter persona can have everything that he needs to build on top of Brain Drive to help us get to this V1 launch for our Katie Carter persona. So we're on uh, 5 and
That's
5
the just so you know, for 5, that should have been checked off last week. The page data.
page data.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So I'll make sure I check that off
yeah.
after the call. And then we were going to be working on dashboards, but after last week's conversation and speaking with some of our developers, Dave and I decided to go and switch all of our focus into developer documentation because the easier we can make it for other developers to build on top of Brain Drive and create their own AI systems, the better it's going to be for the ecosystem and the faster we're going to be able to move in the future. So this is one of those kind of one step back to take two step forwards moments. And that's basically what we did last week, right?
But
Is you focus on the
yeah,
documentation.
but the big thing that comes from that is the part, like, it's not covered in the roadmap or anything like that. But it's like we came out of last week with our own version of projects starting to come to fruition and give birth. Other providers other than just Olama, we're going to cover the top 8. And we've taken a step into that direction, and then managing an Olama server from within Brain Drive.
Right.
So more,
From other
we did,
developers.
yeah, exactly. We did documentation so that other developers can do it. However, this did not mean that the project stalled in any way.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, no, and that's really exciting. Like Dave's talking about, we now have would you call it a V1? Probably not quite a V1 yet, but a V dot oh 09.
Yeah, where it's
And
it
it's
worked.
almost there.
It
Yeah, it
worked. The only
works.
difference was the UI had to be changed a little bit so that it met what the user level we're going to have can see it, work with it, and visually have expectations that have met somewhere else, so
Yep.
that they can have the ease of use and already have almost a hands-on knowledge of how to work with it without ever touching that interface before.
Yep,
Uh,
and we're calling that chat with documents
yep.
right now, and we have that thread in the forum right here for anybody who wants to follow along at community.braindrive.ai. So that's the chat with documents plugin that Dave's referring to that we'll be releasing shortly. And we now also have, in addition to being able to run OLAMA models within Brain Drive, we also have the ability to hook up an OpenAI
Hmm.
API key to Brain Drive. And I
Yep.
think sometimes people ask, as a local AI system or wanting to own your own AI system and being sort of like the anti big tech, like, why would you have API based models? And the answer is our freedom pillar is we
Yeah.
want you to be free to do whatever you want with your own AI system. And sometimes you're not going to care if things are private. Like if you're doing research on publicly available research papers and doing summaries and that type of stuff, might as well use the whatever model is the most powerful and the best for that. So you can use OpenAI for that if you want to. And then when you're doing things that you really care about privacy, like maybe your financial data, your health data, or your therapist, you can switch over to the local models. And the BrainDrive page interface allows you to set all of that so you can go into these specific use cases and not have to like change a bunch of stuff. It's already there. It's set for you. When you don't care about privacy, go to the OpenAI API if you want to, and when you do, stick with the the OLAMA driven pages.
And given Sam's interview last week, people are starting to see a ton of
Yeah,
articles. Did you notice that? Because he even said your log in OpenAI could be used in legal proceedings against you.
right.
Yeah, he came
So,
out and said it. So it's like if there's ever been a put, it's like, and now you can start to see the trickle, but it's going to be an avalanche of promoting locally owned AI systems because Sam's word, it covers a lot of distance. And it's like, get ready. He opened the
yep.
door for everybody.
Yeah, when you're self-hosting it, you decide, and when someone else is hosting it for you, and you're relying on them for everything, then they decide.
Yep.
So, cool. So, yeah, lots of progress last week. It was a really exciting week. And while we didn't get onto the uh, to the dashboard stuff, we
Yep.
got a lot of other things
Yep.
accomplished, which is exciting. So let's take them through the documentation updates. So, or you want to walk them through the process.
Yep.
Basically, I have here. Let me share my screen. A developer quick start guide, the goal of which is to get a developer up and running building plugins on BrainDrive in 30 minutes or less. And Dave and I had a long conversation where he walked me through all of this on Friday. And this is my attempt and his first time seeing what we put together here. So, it may be way off, may not be, but you'll see the conversation either way. So start building on Brain Drive in 30 minutes or less. So the first thing is install Brain Drive, and that links to the installation file.
Yep.
Then download and install the plugin template, and that links to the plugin template repository, which Dave has put together as a boilerplate for people to start their plugin journey on without having to build all of the foundational
Yep.
pieces from scratch. And I say I have a link here to the plugin manager. So once you've downloaded the um, once you've downloaded the plugin template, go here. Okay, there we go.
Yep.
Go here, plugin manager, install plugins, and that brings you to the install screen where you can install the plugin. And then I have add the plugin template to a page using the page manager. So same thing here. Go to BrainDrive Studio, click the new page, drag it over, publish it.
Yep.
And then clone and customize the plugin template. And this is Claude code
Yep.
uh, code
Because
things
that, well,
here.
I'll go through that by hand and we'll show everybody after you get done. So,
Cool.
but yeah, that
Uh,
basically looks correct.
Okay, good. And then you've just completed the full BrainDrive plugin development loop. You've installed, you've modified, you've built it, and you've tested it within Plugin Manager. And then it's review the lifecycle manager customization guide.
Yep.
Learn how to register your plugin, set the correct permissions and metadata, define your plugin scope and behavior. Uh, uh, Understand service bridges. I've got this new service bridge guide, which I'll show you. And then this is the link. This is just a table with a quick summary of what each service bridge is and the link to the example that you created.
Hmm.
Start with only the bridges you need. Each includes its own minimal working plugin as an example, and then build something small. And then
Yep.
stuck, go to the forum.
Yep.
Good quick
That's,
start.
yep. Because basically what we covered is just a very simple, this is the kind of that developer circle that once you know that at a minimal scale, you can widen it as much as you want as your skill level allows for.
The only limit is your imagination,
Yep.
I guess your skill level for now until we have Brain Drive Code Concierge.
Yes.
All right, cool. I got that published to the GitHub, but there's some issues. So,
Hey,
um,
hey, that I know that's a learning process for you.
right.
My wife has been laughing. She overheard our conversation with getting it. She thought I was British.
Yeah. And this is just a quick Brain Drive Service Bridge architecture provides a robust decoupled communication systems between plugins and the core platform. Each bridge extends abstract-based service-based class and provides version capabilities that plugins can depend on. No intimate knowledge of the core platform, true modularity, 90% less development work, learn by doing. Here's that table again,
Yep,
basically. And then installing an example, add the demo modules to a page using the drag and drop, interact with the components to see the service in action, study the code patterns, copy those patterns to your own plugins. Just a quick summary of the architecture
yep,
principles. And again, just getting started. I don't even know if we need this last part. It seems duplicative, but
yeah. We'll go over that afterwards and clean that up.
sounds good. All
Yep,
right, so that's that piece. Am I still sharing? Was I sharing?
yep,
Yes.
yep.
Okay.
You
There
shared
we
it all.
go.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, cool. So what do you want to share with us, Dave?
Okay, we're gonna go. I think the here everybody should at this point know how to install it. We've covered that in several different ways at this point, and we'll continue covering it. But I think at this point, with the documentation, we'll focus on that circle of that every developer will go through. So let's go ahead and share my screen. Let's go ahead and target this one. I'm doing the whole screen. It's off. Okay, you can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, well, first of all, I'll just point I have a few more pages than probably most people at this point. Which is, hey, it's been fun because I'm starting to see it populated and my brain is already starting to churn on how best to handle when you have 25, 30, 40 pages. We're gonna have that problem at some point, thankfully enough, and we'll have to start addressing it. Um, uh, we can go through right here, but each one, as I said, has its own little template that it goes through. Each of the plugin demos are actually totally focused on that one service bridge. So you won't see a lot of extra code in there other than like the interface, but you will not see it making API calls if it's the event bridge. It won't, I'm not worried. In fact, I'll even show you. As you see, I'm not worried about the theme because I didn't want the theme bridge interfering, and that's on purpose. So if somebody sees it and they go, "Oh my God, you're not covering themes here," that was intentional because the only bridge I wanted in this was the event. So
Yep.
that people, if they're looking at, they want to know how to deal with events and messaging, which this specific is kind of complicated to understand the concept. You will want the noise out, only focus on what you want. So that's a very easy and so you can see, I can put in hello, and it will simply send a message over to the receiver. I have multiple receivers, so if I wanted to actually, nope, not the display, we'll type in hello again. And if I want to broadcast a message, let's say you had multiple plugins on the same page and you want everybody to get the message at once, you don't have to go through. You just have to send a broadcast message, and everybody will get it. Every plugin will get it, and what they do with it is based on the message and if they've been coded to handle that. Otherwise, they will just go, okay, I don't need this and throw it away.
Yeah.
But this goes into not just you can see it working, you can actually go through the code in the plugin, the event demo, which is online, and then the documentation backing it up to walk you through the process. And so you can read about it, see the code example, and then look in the actual code where it works. And it's the same code so that you can follow that chain of thought and then you can copy it and use it in your own code. So that was the
Awesome.
principle right there. And each of the service bridges has been handled with that to include the actual plugin template. The plugin template has both the same documentation level and the life cycle. has the same treatment as well. So no longer is it just a primer. It actually has a little customization guide so that you can go through, you need to change this, you need to change this. And if you need the extra ones, you have the primer there to guide you through that this is what this is, but you don't need it a lot. It's just there for in that one case, somebody will need it and they'll say, oh my God, you didn't cover it. We've covered it. Have a nice day type stuff.
Awesome.
Yep. So
And
now,
all of the service bridges have documentation and an example now for people to go through.
yep, yep. There's no more like because this all started with Beck. He wanted to use events, and he was asking me questions that I hadn't touched in months. And I was like, I need to do you a demo. And that's when Dave and I went, stop. Let's do one for everything. Let's get this right, and then we can go forward. So
Oh, great.
everybody owes Beck. Thank you for that one. Because
Cool.
yeah, because if it wasn't for somebody making us, trust me, documentation is never a coder's friend,
Yep.
in that regard. So,
Yep.
but for example, let's say we want to move forward, and I need to pull brain drive template. There we go. I wanted to show the life cycle, so to speak, of not the manager, but a developer's life cycle when they're coding a template. And this is going to go into, I've decided I want to make a template for brain drive. I will need to get it. I want to, and this is really good for somebody who's just starting out. They've just installed
You
Brain
said
Drive,
make a template, but you mean make a plugin,
but
right?
yeah, make a plugin. Um, Good catch. So all they really have to do is, first of all, we're going to make sure it works. So it's a pretty easy system. You just put it in. It's like WordPress. You just need a link of some sort. Eventually, we will have a marketplace where you don't even have to really go through this. You could go to the marketplace and say install,
And
and you'll be
just
done.
two sentences on what the plugin template is.
The plugin template, a word you use, it's also floating around boilerplate, but this is a cookie cutter of the basic concept of every plugin. It has what's in there. It works so that you can install it and see it as a plugin so that you know where you're starting with is a working operating plugin. And then B, it has multiple service bridges already installed, already tested so you can see they're actually working and to give you a leg up on any development process. So in theory, if you are you, I think I have API themes and such like that. If you wanted to create a plugin, you install the service bridge, you change the name to whatever you want, or
You
service bridge, you
install the
install the
plugin
plugin
template.
template,
Yep.
you change it to whatever you want it to be. But as far as the code goes, all you have to do is start coding what you want your plugin to do and not have to worry about the brain drive stuff because it's already in the template there for you to utilize.
Great. So it's a great place to start to
Yep.
understand how Brain Drive works and then to start customizing it to change the plugin to do whatever you want it to do,
Yep,
right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So wherever if you just want to do a hello world, you can do a hello world. If you want to create tic-tac-toe, you can create tic-tac-toe.
Okay.
So the install process, I don't know if we've covered it on here, but it's pretty much just as easy as this. You click install, it goes to the repo, or if you're doing a local, it'll just grab it from there. It will download it. It will verify that it has all the necessary components. It goes through the lifecycle manager to handle the installation process. You can look right here. This will tell you everything you need to know how it went for the install process. Of course, green means you were great. You don't have to, if you just want to look for that and move on like I do sometimes, you go with it. This will let you know that there were two modules inside the actual plugin that you just installed. So you can kind of see if that makes sense to you, what you should have been expecting. And this is more for plugin developers, because if there is a mess up in how an export is handled, this would be the first determining factor. Did you get it all right? So,
Got it.
and then if you want to further test, we have what this does, instead of having to go through the Brain Drive Studio, create a page, and you just want to make sure that the basic concept of your plugin is running and can be instantiated. That's a developer's word. It means you can take your code and it can actually be created as an object in code. All you have to do is go here, and it'll come down and you'll be able to see that it was able to do everything that it was supposed to do. The only piece missing left is, was it functioning as you as expected in your code? And that you'll need to create a page and go test and stuff like that. But as far as the plugin system is concerned, this is working as expected. We
And
do
that
not have a
saves you a bunch of time having to go back and forth between different things.
and and the black box theory that happens. Plugin systems at web, anything like that, always has that black box where it's like it doesn't work, but why? Because it gives you nothing. It just says, nope, it's not working. What I've tried to do is provide information on where you can determine why it's not working and any information that A, I've seen before. I've already given you a response why. And if it's something that I haven't seen before in my testing, it will actually give you the information from the back end to help you out and get you forward. And that would be right along in this piece of information.
Okay,
Um,
so basically at this point you have seen the plugin template, you get how the install process works,
yep.
you've seen the lifecycle manager here in terms of how that helps you determine whether what you have is working or not. You've installed it, you've looked at the template, seen how BrainDrive works. All right, I'm in good shape.
Okay, now we're going to create a little test page. Template. Let's go ahead and create. And there you go. I'm going to put it on here. And there you go. And this is just so I can see it. Everybody else can see it. I'm going to save it so it's there. And I'm going to go ahead and publish it. And you'll see it populate over here on this side so that I can actually see what I'm working with.
Nice.
Now I know my plugin template is working. It's doing everything it should do. Um, don't mind anybody witnessing this saying, oh my God, it's hung over. A, I didn't stretch it down. And then B, that's part of my work for this week is to get a certain piece of code in sync with everything else. And that's already on my list.
But at this point, you now understand you've got the plugin
Yep.
template, you've seen the install process and the lifecycle manager. You've understand that we have this concept of pages, which is, you can save your workflows and, different chats, different models, different automations, eventually, all that type of
Yep.
stuff on different pages. And then you can take the plugin that you've created and drag it onto a page and have multiple plugins on a page if you'd like. So you
Yeah.
kind of, at this point, you understand kind of how BrainDrive works on both the back end and the front end.
Yes. So now we want to change this. And this is where, for me as a coder, I've been coding since the 80s. The first time I always get a piece of code, the first thing I do, I change it. I edit it in some way. I compile it. I display it so that I own it. And that's my mentality of how I thought. That's how I was taught to go through, and I still see it practiced to this day by just too many people to ignor.
Got it.
So
You
we've
want
gone.
to you want to make a change to something.
Exactly. So now we are going to go to don't mind my mess of VS Code. It is a nightmare when it comes down to it, but that's hey, somehow I make this work. Uh, but say, anyways, I'm going to go down to here. For me, when developing, all of my plugins go into BrainDrive, the plugin build. I have it on my git ignore so that it never hits the repo, but I can freely develop here. And if, like, good example of my service bridges, I can build many repos inside here and have them go to their own repo, and it keeps me organized, and so that everything's not in one project. So now we're going to move forward. Let's see where we're at. Plugin build. There we go. I'm just going to go ahead and clone this. Before I do it, let me make sure I get rid of this. And I'm just going to, are you going to let me delete? There we go.
All right, so now you've gone into your VS Code and you're going to clone the plugin
Yep.
template, correct?
Yep. And everybody can
And you're
see I just,
doing and you're doing this because now that you've seen it install, you want to make a change to it.
yep. Now, first thing to note is when I do this right now, it is not going to interfere with the version that I have installed in BrainDrive, because right now they are completely separated organisms. The one that's installed sits in the back end, and the one that is I'm coding is currently wherever I have it located at, and just so happens it's in my build plugin or my plugin build directory.
Okay.
So I have that done now. Um, if you notice, it's right there. In this, let's go in here. And now I'm in the directory. You can see what it does. I'll downloaded everything that I need. But I said I want to own this. So the first two things I want to do when I'm owning it is I'm going to go to the back end. And this is the part where Dave does not spend as much time. So this will be new for him. So if he
Hmm.
sees something that he doesn't get, this is where like I rely on him to go, hey, explain that, because I just go. All plugins in the backend are installed in a plugins and shared directory. This allows us to keep separation, minimize file use, and just speeds up everything in the end, and allows us to separate, as you'll notice, by versions. Currently, only the version 1 is installed, so that's all you can see. If there were several versions, let me go over Brain Drive chat. I have multiple versions. Each one is separate. So if I had a myself, if I liked version 8, I can stay with it. If I upgrade, I can go with it. If I want to go backwards, I can do that. I can have installed the code. But more importantly, if I had a multiple user system and I had a user using 8 and they didn't want to change, they don't have to, even though I have another user on 11. So that allows separation between the users to basically have their own environment without being affected by other people.
Cool. So, in terms of just following our quick start,
Yep.
we've got install the plugin template, see how it all works in BrainDrive, put it on a page, see how that works. Now I understand BrainDrive. Now I'm coming in to make a change. There's been a lot between what I just said and where we are right now. Is that necessary for people to know, or is that like additional information?
This is this is just part of development. It's if you're a developer, you there's information that goes between those steps, but it comes with normal React front end and back end development. So it's just part of the process of we can go into painstaking detail. And for Katie, if we get there, it would probably be helpful, but she's probably not going to develop this way. That's why I use the word if. Katie's going to be probably using a
Katie's
front
never
end.
going to touch VS Code or the terminal or
Exactly. So the
anything.
developers that are watching along get what all they need to know is, hey, you're going to own this, and this is the process. And you install it in Brain Drive. You see it work. Now we're going to clone it. Now what I'm doing right now is I'm going to connect the two together.
Right. And I
And,
just want to understand is everything you've said for the last few minutes, is that
yep.
necessary for me to know to make this change you're talking about or no?
Not really, because you could do it in multiple different ways. This is just the way David does
Okay, got it.
it. Okay. So when
What's the
I'm
easiest way to do it?
I think it goes by per user. For me, this is the easiest way because, and I'm going to go by Beck and Matt encountered the same hiccup, and I gave my
Which is
solution.
what?
When remember with the cache when they encountered a caching and having to delete and then reinstall the plugin every time you make a change.
Okay.
This is how I solved that.
And just again, layman's explanation as
Yep.
much as you can. How did you solve it?
Basically, since I have Brain Drive installed in the same environment that I have my plugin installed, all I had to do was connect the two and tell when I build my plugin, put the actual bundle in the Brain Drive backend, so I don't have to install it anymore.
Okay, so it feels like how you set up VS Code in this case is important.
Yes. Yep. And that's a developer. No,
Yeah,
no Katie.
I
Yeah.
understand all this is developer. We're
Yeah.
we're we're not talking about Katie for a
Yeah.
long time. So let's forget about her for these conversations.
Yep.
Anytime we're talking about code, it's just developers. Um,
And
so
everybody has their own way of doing this. That's why it's like,
well, I
yep.
understand, but you're
Yep.
saying that it's good to do it the way that you're doing it, and that the people that didn't do it that way ran into a problem.
Yep.
So what I'm hearing is do it this way, and you won't
For,
run into problems.
yep.
Okay. So what is, I know you just showed it, but what is this way from a high level standpoint?
Okay. This way is because I have in my environment, I have Brain Drive sitting here and off almost to the side, I have my plugin code. And so when I build my plugin code, instead of having to tell Brain Drive each time, install my plugin, Now let me reinstall it by hand, which could take you 10 minutes each time. And if you're developing, I can tell you right now from my point, I
Just
like to,
keep
yep. Okay. Keep going. Okay.
don't give me the commentary. Just
Yep.
give me the steps.
um, then when I build, my code immediately goes to the back end. So I do not have to do any extra steps other than refreshing my browser and killing the cache.
Say that one more time.
Okay, so when I build my plugin each time, the only thing I have to do is refresh my browser in a way that kills the cache so that it will be forced to load the new plugin code.
And if I'm a developer and I hear what you just said, that one sentence, I know how to set up my VS Code or not.
You should. If you've been doing React development, because and like I said, the cases that I've explained this, once I told them this is dealing with a cache issue and how to get around that, they were like perfect, and
Okay,
it
so we're
worked.
having a cache issue. How do you get around it? No
Okay,
commentary.
no
Just tell me how you
commentary.
get around it.
Okay, no, okay, I'm not going to do anything with the screen. You
Yeah.
go into your developer tools on the browser, you
Yep.
go into the network tab, you disable cache. I have noticed that I have to have that up when I'm doing development, and I just do control F5 to tell it to refresh the browser.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. And then how you structured your VS Code here and what you
Yep.
just walked
Yep.
through a couple minutes ago.
One extra step is missing from that.
Okay.
That is this disk directory that is in my backend. I will copy the entire path. I will go down to my build template, open up the Webpack, and as I already have it set up so that people that see it will know what to do with it. And I comment it out and put it in. Now, when this builds, it will go straight to my back end.
Okay. So when I'm thinking about, because I'm trying to bring this back to the developer quick start guide, right?
Yep.
Okay. And I have um let me just bring it back up here and look at it. So I have one install brain drive.
Yep.
Got it. I pull up the install guide. I've done it. Just follow the steps.
Yep.
Easy peasy, right? Two, download and install the plugin template. I did
Yep.
that, non-developer, easy peasy. I did it via the link, but you could download a zip file and upload it. Dave's got it set up for that
Yep.
too, so you don't even need an internet connection to get it on your brain drive. Awesome, easy peasy. Add the plugin template to a page using the page builder in your brain drive. Publish it, confirm it. It appears in your brain drive pages. Easy peasy,
Yep.
done. Step, got it. Okay. Clone and customize the plugin template.
Yep.
Okay. Now, it wasn't just clone it and then let me go in here and change this name and then boom this was like, okay, here in my thing I've got these different folders
Yep.
and I've set it up this way, and oh, remember there's this cache thing that you got to do here. So I'm wondering if we can get that down to just follow these steps.
Well, probably the problem with that is everybody sets this up so differently.
Okay, so
I
everyone sets up their IDE differently.
yep.
Okay.
A-
And
And
that
and I'm
can
not.
create issues sometimes,
Yes.
right? And the issue that we've run into with two of the first two or three developers that have come into this is a cache issue,
Yep.
right? And you just described how to solve that cache issue. Just say it one more time.
All you do is you bring up the development tools, you go to the network tab, you have it disable caching, and that handles from the browser side point. And then from the backend side point, I simply direct it to put the bundle in the backend. And that handles the caching, and I can move quickly now.
Okay. So if I'm a developer, that doesn't really mean much to me, but if I'm a developer, that's all I need to know and
Yep.
I'm off to the races to make the change.
Yep.
Because I can put that in the quick start guide.
Yep.
That's what you just said. That's three sentences.
Yes. No. And you come here.
Yep.
Oh, okay. This tells me I don't have one thing done that you actually have on there. I make sure I install the npm install for the
Yep.
plugins and things.
Yep.
So that's not done. That'll clean that up. Um, I'll come here. I'm going to put two exclamation points. That's all I did. It's a small little edit, and the only thing it's going to demonstrate for me is that on the front end, I should see two exclamation points. There we go. Right there.
So now this is the next step in the guide, right? I've made the change.
I've made the change. So now I'm going to build this.
Okay.
And this is when everything I just explained comes together in one moment in time. Because when I build this now, it's going to take its changes and put it into the back end for me. So I do not have to do anything else besides that.
Yep.
So this is just basically David's lazy trick at the end of the day. So now we've got that finished. And then I'm going to start. Do I have that development tools open? We'll find out in a minute. And now I own it. I have two
Okay.
exclamation points
So
right
there's
there.
your changes.
Yep.
So you didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to go into the plugin manager, nothing. You just did your refresh thing that you just talked about, the Dave's lazy trick, and you're in
Yep.
there.
Yep. And it doesn't matter what changes that I have made. I could redo this entire interface into something else. It just doesn't matter. Once I clear that cache, it'll take it so that I
Okay.
can get to coding.
Okay. And so now I understand the like I know how to install Brain Drive. I've got Brain Drive installed. I've got the plugin template installed. I've added it via the plugin manager. I've added the plugin to a page, so I understand that concept. I've made a change to the plugin template, so I have my
Yep.
development environment set up. Those that I'll put that little disclaimer in there about how to set that development environment up to avoid the caching issues. And now we've made a change. And so what's next? Now I'm ready to start building my plugin, right?
Your dream.
Okay. So now I'm assuming like I just made one little change. That's pretty easy. How do I go from that to I've got some crazy workflow in my head that, for example, I want to, grab a transcript from Zoom, rip out all the extra data in it, do a summary of it, and maybe send an email out or whatever.
Right here. This is your plugin now.
Okay.
You do what developers do. You break down your idea into concepts. You
Yep.
start building your components that are
Okay.
necessary for you to do whatever. In most cases, if this is your first time, you would probably want to check out, make sure your APIs fetches are connecting to wherever you're going to want to connect to grab a transcript or something like that. Um, it, Make sure that you can access the model you want to access, those kind of little things, because the UI is going to be easy after that.
Okay,
Once you
so
once you have all
there's
your
going to be
pieces.
some things that as a developer, like I just need to know, or I'm not really a developer, right?
Yes.
Right.
At the
Okay,
end of the
so
day, you went to school or you spent this
yeah,
a billion years
you're
learning.
hot, whatever. You've learned the base. So
Yep.
what do I need to understand that we haven't seen so far about Brain Drive specifically? Not just general development stuff, like Brain Drive specifically.
The next, which is we do not have the documentation for, however, the API docs are available, and that is the APIs that are available in the back end for you to utilize while
Okay,
developing.
you said we don't have the API documentation available, but the API docs are available. What is
Well,
that?
anyway, we have not went through each API call and fleshed it out with both examples, what and a verbiage of what it's used for, and descriptors and things like that. However, Fast API and every Fast API developer knows this. All you do is API slash v1 slash docs, and you have the entire API list, and it tells you what's available. If you need to populate a certain type of object to pass it on so it works, it tells you that. And you can sit there and test it also as well.
Okay, so yeah, we haven't developed anything specifically yet for Brain Drive with examples and stuff. We will, but like the Fast API stuff is all there.
Yep.
You can put it in the AI. You can talk to the AI about it. Get it to help you. What's here? How do I call it? All that type of stuff.
Yep. And if you are using like how I have my setup, and if I wanted to get the AI involved at this point, It has my back end code, it has my front end code, and it has my plugin code. I can tell the AI, build me something that does something, whatever I'm doing it. And it gets close to 95% of the time, especially the more information I can give it as far as how Brain Drive works.
Okay. So, all right. So install,
Yep.
grab the template, install the template via the plugin manager, put it on a page, see how all that works.
Yep.
Now clone it, get it up in your IDE. Follow these few simple
Yep.
instructions to avoid this caching issue. Make the change, refresh. Dave's lazy way. You don't.
Yep.
You're saving you a bunch of time. See the change that you've made on Brain Drive. So now I've got like that's the development process.
Yep.
Okay.
It
And you're saying the next step is look at the APIs.
well, it depends. You have to know what you're doing. Okay, because at
Uh,
this point, okay, your idea has to come into play.
okay.
Me telling you what to do is immaterial because what if you just simply want to have some bouncing ball on the screen? You have a daughter that comes by and wants to see and she wants to see a ball bounce. You never
Right.
know. It's like that would take CSS and a little React. You don't even need AI for that. But you could
Right.
do it here. So it's
Right.
whatever your dream is right now, that's what you have available.
Okay. Depending on what I want to do. So
Yep.
now I need to have an idea of what I want to do. How is that going to determine where I go next and how do we help you with that? So one of the ways is we've used Fast API, which is out of the box, the AIs are going to know how to look at it and help you
Yep.
determine what calls you need to make and that type of stuff.
Yep.
What else?
Um, I've built this in a way where if you're a developer, so you're using VS Code, and if you've structured yours anywhere near like mine, doesn't have to be exact, but where your AI can see the front end, the back end, and your plugin at the same time. If I was whatever you're doing, fill in the blank. I'm using AI to play tic-tac-toe with. That's
Okay.
my goal right here. If I'm doing this project, I can go into, boom, let me go here root code for the example of one I've pulled in, and I can simply tell it, and I would say I would tell it go here because, like I said, the more information you can give, the better. I grab my path here, and I so that I could tell it, hey, and I'm not going to actually press the button, but I'm going to give an idea of what I would do. Okay, my plugin is here. So now I've told the AI exactly where we're building at. Okay. I don't have to give it anything else because it can determine based on my project, I'm using React. I'm using Fast API. The the stuff that would matter to a human being, I do not have to worry about here. Okay. And then I would simply say, hey, I want to build a plan in markdown format for creating an tic-tac-toe game where I play against the AI and then press enter. The AI
Okay.
would go through it will and if I wanted to help it, I can say, hey, here's an example of how an API service bridge works for communicating with the back end or something of that nature. That's if I wanted to help. But odds are I don't even have to do that the way that because the way mine is trained up. Simply it'll just go, it'll figure out all it needs to figure out, and then it'll come back with a plan. And that plan is spot on 90% of the time.
Okay. So it seems like if you're going to use AI to develop
Yep.
on Brain Drive, you've set things up on like the way that you do it that
Mm.
makes that process really easy.
Yes.
Okay. And at a high level, how did you do that?
I made sure it comes down to context. Everybody's reading this now. People finally figured out context matters. But that's the key of this is I have the front end, the back end, and my plugin code in the same IDE. So that means the same root code or whichever one I'm using instance can take advantage of my code, both from a front end, back end, and plugins. I can specifically point to code that it can see so that from the very first prompt I give it right there, it is set up for success because it can pull everything
So
I
you're
want.
using the AI within the IDE and you've got it structured so that it can see everything in one place.
Yep, I don't have to do several prompts. I don't have to hope in hell it does, what I wanted to do. That's why it's like I gave it directions. This is where you're going to look to do X, Y, Z. I have documentation of documentation, and I point it to those sometimes. It's like, hey, if you want to know how Service Bridge A works, I now give it that documentation instead of having it go through code. So it can do the same thing a developer would do. I treat it the same as a junior developer is the fact of here's you go, here's your documentation. I want to build off that. I want to
Okay.
do it.
All right. So just tying a bow on all this because
Yep,
we're coming up on an hour and I definitely want to make sure we talk about what we're going to be focused on this week. This is great. This is awesome information. And also there's a lot here I can slice and dice,
yep.
into different little,
Just like just like the developer's guide that you did, you could put part of this information,
yeah,
point right to it, and say, "Hey,
right.
you want a verb by minute of what's going on? There you
Yeah.
go."
Yeah. And okay. So also I'm starting to understand it. All right. So you spent all of last week on example plugins for service bridges and service bridge documentation, and I heard you mention one time a bridge. So where does that all fit in?
Because if you're doing a plugin, you need to know about service bridges. And this is where I skipped over it, but the AI sees the service bridges. The AIs see every plugin example I have in this
So I need
system.
to put these plugin examples into my development environment so the AI can see it.
You don't have to. However, that's leveraging code in my opinion. So
Okay.
if you're going to get serious about this, why not? It only gives you more information to feed to the AI, which is always better.
Okay. So um all right. So just go ahead and
Yep.
install all of the service bridges in your development environment as plugins, and that way it's there for the
Yep.
AI. And also, whenever you want to look at the code to reference it, it's there. And then I get stuck and I say, what the hell is this in this service bridge or in the plugin template? Where do I go besides the community? Where do I go before going to the community?
Before the community, I like we're talking about service bridges, events. It's very complicated on how it works in the back end and all like that. I'm trying to get my plugin to use events and it's having trouble. I simply would tell the AI, here is a working example of how events are working. It
The
works.
example that
The
the
example of the
example
bridges.
plugin. Yep.
Here's the documentation that goes with it. That
Which
way
is
I'm
in
not
the GitHub that we're going to provide links to.
Yep. And that's why I'm not relying on the AI doing the right thing. I'm telling it where the right thing is.
Okay.
And so then I say, make my event system work like the example.
Okay.
And then I go get coffee.
Got it. Okay. So I just really need the one sentence example, a one sentence explanation of what each service bridge does, which is in the service bridge guide that I created and we'll go over
Yep.
and make sure it's all kosher. And then I can look at it myself if I want to, and I can give it to the AI so it understands how each of these things work. And that way, when I say I'm having trouble with my X's and O's in my tic tac toe game, rather, it will either myself or the AI will say that's because of the way that this service bridge works and this API call and blah, blah, blah.
Yep. And depending upon your skill level, I'll be the first to admit the AI slows you down sometimes.
Yeah,
If you're just doing run of the mill coding, go at it. Your fingers are faster. If you struggle though, like I said, I give the AI 90 to 95% accuracy of just spot on the first time get out the door getting a plugin right.
great.
Eh,
All right. So let's talk about what we're working on this in the coming week.
Uh,
So go ahead.
Okay, from my standpoint, we currently have two pieces of code that manage what I call the grid, and that is what plugins sit on. One is for BrainDrive Studio, and the other is on the pages. And that by accident got separated based on functionality demands where I needed some and where I needed some. However, we're reaching a maturity instance where I believe that we're better served by it being a single piece of code for us to manage completely throughout the life cycle of BrainDrive itself. So my job is to put them together, work on the WYSIWYG aspects so that your plugins can display as they want to be displayed, as you want them to be displayed, and then also having a way to really handle the cache for you so that it will notice, hey, a file has changed, the back end can let the front end know this kind of stuff, and then clear the cache for you. That'd be like a perfect world for me.
Awesome. Okay. So um we have Beck on Chat with Documents.
Yep,
We're talking to him tomorrow. Feels like we can probably get a V1 of Chat with Documents knocked out before next week. At
yep.
least not the like we need to put all the pieces together,
Yeah.
but you can run it the way that he built it.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
And then we're going to take a look at making an installer process and the back end handle microservices for the user. So the
yep.
user would just simply have to install Chat with Documents and they don't have any other steps to go through.
Yep. Okay. You want to stop sharing?
Uh,
Okay. And then Karam is working on, who built the OpenAI plugin, is now working on OpenRouter.
yep,
Once we have those two, you'll be able to run pretty much anything via an API, although we're going to continue going down the list with Claude and Grok and all of them. Matt should be done with his Olama plugin enhancements by that point, and he's going to get back to Dave and me with a proposal for how to handle search. So we'll be
yep,
adding a search plugin in. Um, and then I think we need to talk about and nail down plugins from the standpoint of a framework for how we think about what plugins are actually core. Like, what do we put into the
yep.
core versus what do we do as a plugin? I know you have, I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on that already. And then what are the core plugins, right, that we want to include
Yep,
with Brain Drive versus non-core that people will install
yep,
outside of the install process? And then we need to figure out, like right now, these plugins are sitting on developer GitHubs, which
yep.
for you, since you're a co-creator, that's fine. But other developers are likely to come and go.
Yep.
Um, so um, so how are we going to handle that? And then I think we have enough that we can get like at least the first few plugins up in the marketplace.
Yep. No, no, we are because my list of plugins is especially like with the example one sitting there. And now we're getting some, I'll call them meat and potatoes, what people actually want to use AI for.
Right.
Those plugins are now that entry level is starting to hit. And that puts us, we're going to be one step from people tic-tac-toe. I want to, those kind of things. They want to do silly little experiments and go, hey, look what I coded. We're really close to that starting happening. So yeah, how the marketplace and then move backwards into when you install Brain Drive and you install it from us, you get XYZ. We want, that were, but if you get it from Pete's coaching may want you to have his plugins installed and how that would be handled and such like that because we are open and we want people to explore the freedom of what you can do when you can modify anything.
Getting into the nitty gritty now.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. I think we'll call it there. We do these calls every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We'd love it if you join us. And we also post the recordings on our forum at community.braindrive.ai. So feel free to jump in there and watch it if you missed or ask any questions, comments, ideas. All are welcome. We're looking to build the future of user owned AI by making it easy to build, control, and benefit from your own AI system. And we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep.